Hey everyone, and welcome to part 3 of this series where we are travelling from the top of New Zealand all the way down to the bottom through both islands. Now in parts 1 and 2 we did the North Island and had an amazing time and great scenery thanks to Freedom Mobility for their vehicles to help us on this journey with the hand controls. In part 3 we are starting in Christchurch and working our way down to Queenstown, down the west coast, which, believe me, this is an episode you are not going to want to miss. It is pretty epic with the views that we were seeing. So let's dive into it with part number 3. The rings, you can definitely feel the influence. And here is Fern number 2. She hasn't just had a paint job, she is now a new one with white. We started in Christchurch and we headed straight away through Arthur's Pass. And this is just somewhere I looked on the map and it was like, that looks like a fun road because it's all wobbly and windy, and it was really cool to go through. So yes, it was a wibbly windy path, but we also got to see these really cool rocks which I probably never thought I'd say as a kid, but here I am as an adult saying like, those are cool rocks. And yeah, you're just driving along this beautiful road and you just seeing the scenery, and there's like hardly anybody here. This bit was probably the busiest bit, the rock part, but going along we had the tri-ride helping me out when we stopped off going up and down these places. But yeah, this road was really cool, and yeah, as we're driving along there's just amazing view after amazing view after amazing view. And it's like the first part, because now we're on the South Island, where we got to experience the mountainous side of New Zealand. The North Island is more hilly and volcanic and all that kind of stuff, but you come to the South Island and it's much more epic. Mountains and valleys and huge rivers, and as you can see in the footage here, it's just stunning. And like, I don't think the footage does it anywhere near as much justice, and I've watched this all several times now, and it just does not do it justice how amazingly beautiful this country is. And just like, you just look at it with your mouth open the whole time, and every time you get further along it's like something new and something amazing, and it's like, there's so much of it. So very cool to see all this, and I recommend the Arthur's Pass. And as you can see, it literally cuts through the mountainside. You got the viaduct coming through here, and just really cool to see. Bit of feat of engineering if you're into that kind of stuff. And as Alice showing off the new Fern 2, the same car in white. Freedom Mobility were absolutely fantastic with providing us with the car and support, and really just helps make the journey easier. And I think it is definitely the only way to really see the country properly, because we found the best bits weren't the destinations, it was the bits in between the destinations. It was the stopping at the scenic viewpoints, it was enjoying the drive, it was enjoying the vistas, and just the beauty that this country has to offer is not in like the towns, it's the bits in between the towns. And yeah, like if you're trying to get around New Zealand, like there isn't really the infrastructure with like trains. They very much like get from one destination to the other, and the coaches and that are fantastic if you're not in a wheelchair. But if you're in a wheelchair, then the only real way to get around is to hire a car, and Freedom Mobility offer that, and they have a wide range. And the car that we had, as you can see from quite a lot of the videos, I could drive myself, which was really great, because I love driving, and I especially love driving when there's no traffic, and New Zealand is literally the perfect place for that. So I did majority of the driving in the hand controls, which made it pretty awesome. We stayed here in this little town of Blackpool, which was a lovely little weird town, but we loved it all the way, and the people there were really nice at the place we were staying. But we only stayed there for a little bit, just to crash for the night, as we're heading down the West Coast Highway, going from the Blackpool there, going down to a place called Franz, Josef, which some of you may or may not know is actually the name of the glacier there, which is something that I was really excited to see, was to see a glacier. I'd never seen it before. I'd never seen mountains this epic before. I'd seen a couple of mountains, but on the way the weather wasn't as friendly to us. As you can see here, we experienced the wet, and it was very much one side of the mountains was hot and sunny and summer, and then the other side of the mountains was just torrential downpour like the whole way on the journey. But it was still like, it had that epic feel, like you're going through and there's mist coming through the mountains, and really cool on the journey still. But we arrived in Franz Josef and we got probably some of the more magical experiences on the journey on this part coming from Franz Josef, and you'll see over the next couple of days that we were going down the west coast here why it was so epic. And one of the things that was the moss, which is a really weird thing to say, but literally everything was covered in moss, which was really, really cool. It felt like old and magical and like just felt like you were in like an old like magical novel or something. And then you get like the roaring river here and the power of the nature literally in front of you. You can see literally how powerful the water is, you know. We had the rainfall and then the river just was crazy, and you can see it going across the bridge here. I'm going across the bridge, but you see the water underneath. It was literally terrifying at how powerful it is. Like if you fell in that water, I wouldn't want to think about what would happen after that. But yeah, it was just felt like you're really, really in nature, and I don't think I'd ever felt like that connected with nature because it's so in your face and it's so like but it's very cool. But we had our hostel still, and we were chilling out for the evenings after some pretty awesome days, just eating some food, chilling out, watching some Netflix. But yeah, the next day we were off to see the actual glacier itself. As I said, this was a thing that I really wanted to see. I don't think it's something that you can really see that often unless you get right up close to it, and this was a really great opportunity to do that in a wheelchair, because often that's not something you can do, but you can literally drive very, very close to it. But even the walk once you got to the car park, which is again fully accessible with even a disabled toilet, you get on a nice walk going along, seeing some lovely rivers and like just peaceful nature. Even with, you know, this was quite a popular place for people to come, so yeah, it's pretty awesome to experience that. We did have one small issue when trying to get to the glacier, which is the path to get to it was really flat until it wasn't, and it was really steep. But luckily it's a busy place, so we had a bit of help there with some other tourists who helped me up the hill, and you could just see there, that's the glacier. The little white peeking out bit, you can't see a lot of it. Obviously with global warming it's rescinded quite a lot over the years, but you can still see it there, and this is us enjoying it from the viewing platform, which was pretty awesome indeed. You can have options to go up onto the glacier, and there are some tour companies that will help you if you're in a wheelchair, and I will put a link down below to a company called Freedom Tracks, which are a really awesome company that basically show you all the accessible adventures that you can do in New Zealand with the companies and that, and they have been really helpful with understanding what I can and can't do. Most of what we did was just traveling like in the car and just viewing stuff, so we didn't use it too much, but they have really awesome stuff. So if you wanted to do stuff like helicopter rides, bungee jumping, skydiving, and all those adventurous things that New Zealand is known for, I would recommend checking them out. But yeah, Franz Josef here, really beautiful, really nice and quiet, and a really good place just to get a little bit lost, but not too lost as well. And as you can see here, here's a little bit more of that winding path with the mossy overgrowth and that magical feeling. It feels like if you look hard enough, you might be able to find little elves and goblins running around the forest. It's very, very cool indeed. But here we are going over this bridge, the one that we showed before. It's a bit more calm that day, as you can see with the river. It's not quite as crazy because we were heading from Franz Josef and we were going on an adventure all the way down to Queenstown. But on the way there was another glacier, so we had to check that out. And this was another day that really surprised us. We were meant to just have a little journey down, but it turned out to be a really long day of just stopping all the way along, and the glacier itself was a bit more epic to see. You're a little bit further away, but you could see more of it. But then nearby was a really beautiful walk that was one of the very few very accessible walks in the area, and as you can see here, going across the bridge, it was nice and flat and had no steps throughout, and there's quite a lot of the path here that you can do in a wheelchair, which is really great to see that you can get in nature and to find blue mushrooms. Now this is something I knew about before I came to New Zealand, that there was blue mushrooms in New Zealand and I had to find them, and we did, and it was on this route going around the lake. I think it was Lake Matheson, something like that. But yeah, we were here viewing Fox Glacier, seeing the blue mushrooms, and look at this. If this isn't a Bob Ross painting, I don't know what is, because this is exactly what I thought of when I got here. The reflections in the water, the mountains, everything was really, really cool. But yeah, traveling down the West Coast Highway now, we got a little bit of ice cream, having a look over the ocean, which, you know, there's not much there until you get to Australia. And then coming down, there's some really beautiful sights on the sea edge, but then you soon cut inland and start to see a bit more of the rivers, and most importantly, this is probably the best place to see some waterfalls. So here you can just about see that waterfall there. That's Roaring Billy on the edge of this beautiful lake, and look at that colour of the water. That's not been edited at all. That is exactly what it's like, that pale turquoisey blue. And this road was just so cool, like winding roads, loads of rivers and waterfalls. You know, you're just cutting like over bridges, going through everything. It's just so just all the time we were just like, wow, it's epic. And it probably got to our favourite waterfall here, which was the Thunder Falls. And look at that, that's a waterfall right there. And the name is appropriate because it was loud, it was roaring, and it was pretty awesome to see. I think it was a like 100 meters tall waterfall, which was just so good. But yeah, going along, you see lots more. We see, I think this was like Hell's Gate or something it was called. Again, roaring through, and you're just driving over this. It's just like, it's crazy that this road just cuts through. There's another one here, Fantail Falls, and all of these that you could get quite up and close and personal with. I think the Thunder Falls, if you're only going to see one, was probably the best one to go and see if you're in a wheelchair, because of how close you can get. You're literally looking at it, and you can feel the water like hitting off the rocks and bouncing into your face, which is awesome. But yeah, down the west coast, and we're on our way to Wanaka. We stayed in these little places just outside Wanaka and for the night, which was just literally pull up at night because we had a long day, and then we're heading straight off early in the morning, so nothing's too much to say about that. But heading down, and the reason we were in Wanaka, you may or may not have heard of a very famous tree in Wanaka called the Wanaka tree. But before we got to that, again, an epic road. This whole west coast drive, as soon as like we left Christchurch, go through Arthur's Pass and then down, it was just like, look, it's just lakes and mountains and hardly anybody on the road. Sometimes it would be raining, sometimes it'd be sunny and hot, and it's just like, as soon as it's sunny, jump out of the car and have a look, and then as soon as it rains, you get hop back in and start driving again. But yeah, absolutely amazing. But yeah, this is what we wanted to see in Wanaka. And again, you may or may not have seen this, but it's quite a famous tree, and apparently the most photographed tree in the world. And you can see for good reason why. It's very unique having it out there in the lake, all by itself. No idea how it survives. Probably should have done more research before I had a look at it. But it was just a quick stop in Wanaka as we come through the misty mountains, as we work our way down to Queenstown. And coming down this road, we very much came down the very, very windy road, which felt like I was in like an episode of Top Gear or something. But the temperature just plummeted as we came. So when we were in Christchurch a couple of days earlier, it was about 20 degrees. As we worked our way down, it dropped down to about 18. When we got to Queenstown, it was 9 degrees Celsius. And then the very next day when we woke up, it was 0. So we had to quickly go to a charity shop, buy ourselves some coats, so we could enjoy Queenstown without being frozen to death, which was good. But yeah, the drive coming through, like,